You're a teacher. You went to Ukraine for 2 years with your wife, Rebecca, who's here. You know, saw what peace and what war mean. Concrete, very concrete terms. And so, Mike, thank you for coming, first of all. You've written this book about your dad, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about how your dad might have crossed this bridge that we just talked about, this Remagen bridge. What it was for him, a soldier, he thought he could take a break on the River Rhine, instead he had to go across. So, Mike, why don't you say a few things about your dad and the bridge?
Okay, I wrote this book, and it was an homage to my father. He passed away when I started writing this, so he never got to read it. I wish I would have written it before, but I really, when I wrote this book, I really wanted people to just have a way of remembering my father and knowing, and people who never met him to know him. And Andrew asked me to kind of read a part of the book, and so the part of the book that I'm going to read from is actually while they're actually crossing the bridge, and this kind of gives you a good idea of what kind of man my father was. So as they're crossing the bridge, they're in trucks, being driven by African American soldiers, and so here's the passage I'd like to read. So after the Strafing attack, and they're being attacked by German dive bombers at this point. So after this the Strafing attack earlier that morning, Jansen had similar feelings to those expressed by his brash, uncouth squad leader. Jansen knew that the two men in the plane who had just crashed into the Rhine River. This is a German Stuka that has just been shot down by the Americans. The Rhine River had been trying to kill him and his fellow soldiers. It was easy to think that they deserved their fate. Then, without warning, the thought entered Jansen's mind that these two men most likely had loved ones back home that were probably worried about them and praying for their safe return. In situations like this, Jansen found himself being pulled in two different directions. Jansen had been trained to detach himself from the reality that his job as an infantryman was to kill enemy combatants. But usually he did not feel anything that could be described as hatred for the enemy. He just performed his duties with a detached, cold indifference. But seeing the deaths of the two German airmen was different. For some reason, he had not witnessed the death of two enemy combatants. He had witnessed the death of two fellow human beings. That feeling was something new to him, and it made him uncomfortable. And that really kind of, so writing this book was a challenge for me, because I never got to talk to my dad about what I was going to write, and because he had died before that, but this really encapsulates the kind of person my dad was, and how I envisioned him kind of dealing with the war when he was there, when he was here in Remagen. And the thing that I think that a lot of people kind of maybe misunderstand is that soldiers want to kill people, and that's not really how they feel. When I was in the military, we trained to go to war, and we did it because we had to. I luckily never had to serve in combat, but then I know from talking to fellow service members that I served with, and also talking with my dad, who never wanted to talk about combat, that it's a cold reality that a lot of people just have to face. That they have to go to war, and they have to do things that they don't want to do. And I think that's why my dad was so reluctant to talk about combat. It's just because he understood what it was that he was doing, and he didn't like it.
And he didn't like it, and I think you said that very well. And, yeah, give him a hand. That's nice, Michael. You know that these warriors probably understand better than anyone else how important peace is, and therefore thank you very much for sharing your thoughts about your father and how he was also torn in his soul about what his role was. Alright, thank you all very much. Herzlichen Dank, dass Sie alle hier zugehört haben. Wir haben ja erfahren, was diese Brücke für eine Bedeutung hat, auch in den Vereinigten Staaten von Amerika. Jetzt haben wir Gelegenheit,